Here's something that I thought might be worth taking a look at. It is the vinyl NRS box S3 from Pro-ject. NRS stands for Noise Reduction System. This is a box that aims to reduce down the crackles and pops and surface noise on old and or damaged vinyl records. Vinyl noise reduction systems are nothing new. This one is, but they've been around for a long time. I've tried to look at these before. In fact, I bought a device from Marantz, a SX72, and that was a number of years ago, and it claimed to do a very similar thing. The one I got, I think it was damaged. It just didn't do anything at all. It lit up, but there was no noticeable difference. So since then, I've been on the lookout for other vinyl noise reduction systems, and there's a company called Sweet Vinyl, and they have a range called the Sugar Cube, and there's various different models, but they start at over £1,000, and they're always out of stock as well. I don't know if they're having supply chain issues, but you can't get hold of those either. So this is a little bit different. We're coming from Pro-ject, who don't charge the arm and a leg for most of their products. This costs £289. It sits on your system after your phono preamp. Your line out goes into this, and then this goes off to your amplifier. It's completely switchable though. You can just switch it out of the system. So it's not like everything's coming through it all the time. In fact, it mentions on here, it's got a galvanic pure bypass. So yeah, you can just bypass this. The reason you might want to do that is because it effectively digitizes the input before it can do all the processing on it. So you're kind of digitizing a vinyl record. And people might say, oh, that's ridiculous because vinyl's all about the analog. Remember, the reason for this thing is to be able to listen to records that you wouldn't normally want to listen to because they sound too bad. So this is up for all your records. Keep your records nice and clean. Keep listening to those ones. Your knackered ones, send them through this, press a button, and hopefully it should sound a little bit better. It's more than pressing a button though. There's two different parts to this. We've got the de-crackling, which reduces the pops and clicks during playback, and that's a variable control. And then we've got the noise reduction, which reduces background noise of vinyl records and turntable drives. Now that's just like an on-off button. Now I haven't got this out of the box yet, so we're going to find out together how effective it is. But when it comes to trying to demonstrate that on YouTube with before and after, it's going to be quite difficult because I'm going to hit up against the content match issue. You only need really a few seconds worth of audio now before things start matching with known audio in the database. So I'm going to be quite careful in playing shorter clips and maybe more obscure things that hopefully won't match. But if at any point in the future you're watching this video and there's silence, it's not because it's worked too well, it's because I've had to cut that little bit of audio out. So with that in mind, let's have a look at this. Let's play some audio and let's see how good it is at reducing crackles and surface noise. A couple of things to mention here. The S3 indicates that this is part of Pro-ject's S line of components, and as you can see here, they do quite a range: phono preamps, digital to analog converters, headphone amps, etc. And they're all available in either silver or black. And this one, I've chosen the silver to go along with the rest of my HiFi components. Pro-ject are based in Austria. They've been around since 1991. This particular product has been made in Slovakia, and the technical data on the side here, it's important to know that this is reducing noise. It's a noise reduction system. It's not an elimination system. So noise reduction up to 8 decibels reduction, de-crackling up to 8 decibels. It won't completely make these things sound silent like a compact disc. It will hopefully make some records that you can't bear listening to bearable. Right, let's get it out. Let's have a look. Okay, here's the contents of the box. We've got the power adapter, multi-voltage, 18 volts, 500 milliamps output, various different attachments for the end of there. So I'll put the correct one on for myself. Instructions, multiple languages. I just need that one there. And then we've got the device itself. The case is metal all the way around, rubber feet on the bottom, very simple connections on the back, power input, line in, line out, and then we've got the controls on the front, which I'll talk through. Okay, I've plugged it into power, and I've also turned the lighting down in here so that we can better see the indicator light. So starting from left to right, the controls, well, the first one is the power button. If it's in the off position, that's also bypass. So that means that any audio traveling through this device would be completely unaffected. But turning it on puts that little blue indicator light on next to it. So then we can go through the rest of the controls. VNRS, vinyl noise reduction system. According to the manual, that will reduce vinyl surface noise and turntable drive noise up to 6 decibels while the played music stays practically untouched. Now, it mentions 6 decibels there. I think it mentioned 8 on the box and mentions 8 elsewhere in the instructions, but it doesn't really matter too much. Press that button, you should get less rumble. So let's move on to the next control, which is the de-crackle. Now, this is variable because you can see here we could go from off to maximum. And you might think, oh, I'll just stick it all the way up to maximum. No, because that affects the audio. It's like any noise reduction system. The more intense it is, the more other things get thrown out as well. So the idea is you try and get it as low as possible whilst making the record acceptable to listen to. It's also got an intensity control here. So first off, you try it in this mode. And if you can't get rid of all the crackles satisfactorily, like that, you then up the intensity and then you try it in that mode. Of course, I think if you went all the way up to the top in maximum intensity, your record might sound a little bit odd, but the center point is the position that it's normally supposed to be kept in. And then over here, if your audio input that's going into this, your line out from your other device, is a little bit loud and it's clipping, press that one in, it takes it all down by 6 decibels. So those are all the controls. Let's plug a record player into this. But just to make one thing clear, it's a line in, it's not a phono in. This is not a phono preamp. You need a separate phono preamp before you get to here to get the line level input. So I'm just going to plug my wires into here, my RCA plugs. Of course, it didn't come with any connector wires at all, but that's fine because I'm going to plug the other end of this into the line level output on the Soundburger. Just for convenience, this is a useful thing to be able to use in a small space like this. Now the output from there, I'm just going to send off to my speakers for the moment. So that's out like that, and there we go. Right, so that's what we need in our system. Now we need some audio that's crackly that we can test. And the record I'd like to try first is this one, because it suffers from all the issues that this device is supposed to be able to reduce. Not only does it have plenty of surface noise, it's also got a load of crackles and pops. Now, you might have seen this previously on the channel, this trimicron. This was a process that was short-lived, where they came out with a record that had an ultra-fine groove on it, which enabled you to get 2 hours on one record, or 60 minutes per side. The downside of this system is that that ultra-fine groove means that the volume output is much reduced from a normal record, and therefore you hear the surface noise more. And also, with a groove that fine, it tends to get stuff stuck in it that you can't clean out, and it has lots of crackles and pops. So the perfect record to test this system out with. So let's have a listen. Okay, we'll start off in bypass mode, so we'll have a listen to the run-in and a few seconds from the beginning of the record, and then we'll see if this can improve that. Okay, right, well that's got plenty of crackles on it. There's definitely a scratch on there because it's at a certain point each time. But let's turn this on now, and we'll make sure that the de-crackle's all the way to the bottom, and we'll just turn on the vinyl noise reduction system, or the background noise eliminator, the one that's supposed to reduce the rumble down, and we'll just have a listen to that. We'll make sure that's off. Right, we're ready to go. Let's have a listen. Okay, so now let's turn on the de-crackle. Put it in the center position there. Well, that crackle was still noticeable, so let's turn it all the way up to the top now. We haven't put the intensity button in yet, so we've still got another level that we can go to, but let's just try this out. Yeah, I think the problem here is that we're dealing with a scratch more than just background crackles and pops, but we'll just give it one more go. Intensity to maximum, de-crackle on maximum. Let's just have another listen. Right, this is proving quite difficult to demonstrate. Let me find a more suitable record. I've been struggling with the testing so far because I'm trying to listen out for this low-level rumble, the crackles and pops, and then seeing how well this device is able to reduce that down. But the trouble is the audio that's actually on the record is drowning it out. So what I could really do with was a silent record, and it just so happens I have one of those. I never thought I'd get a chance to use this. This is DBX Presents Adventures in Recorded Silence. This, I think, is a promotional thing for DBX Disc, which is a format I've covered before. And the idea with DBX Disc is that it was to get rid of all the background noise and you just have a really clean sound with nothing until the music came in. And the idea being with this thing is that it's a record with absolutely nothing recorded on it. It's got a normal groove on it, so you can just put your stylus on at the beginning and it goes all the way to the end. But there's no audio recorded on here. What you do hear when you play it are crackles and pops and rumble. So the idea would be that in a demonstration of DBX, you'd then press the DBX button and all that would disappear. Well, for me now, we could just play this and have a listen to the rumble and the crackles and see if this device is capable of reducing them down significantly. Now, one thing about this that I only noticed today, because I haven't got it out of the thing before, it's a very thin record and it's quite warped. It's like a dish type of warp where the centers drop down. So what I'm having to do with this is play it on a different device, because I tried it on the Soundburger and it was scraping as it went around just due to the shape of it. So I'm putting it on my main turntable, which of course has a full-size platter, and I'm putting a weight on in the center. So then we'll be able to have a listen to it. So let's see how I got on. Right, so what you're looking at on screen here is a 5-minute recording I made from that silent record. The recording was made from the line out of the Pro-ject box into my PCM recorder, and the PCM recorder, the record level was set to maximum. Now every minute I change the settings on the Pro-ject box. The time is shown across the top here. So for the first minute, I actually had it set in the bypass mode. So what you're seeing here is just the background audio, the rumble and the pops and clicks showing as the longer lines here. So that's the bypass mode, quite noisy. You'll notice things change quite significantly though when we get into the 1 to 2 minute point, and that's because I've turned on NRS, the rumble filter. So you can see the background noise has reduced quite significantly. Now I'll leave the NRS switched on throughout this, but in minute 2 to 3 I also turn on the de-crackle. So at this point we should be seeing less clicks and pops. But you can see here we've got Quite a few there, and they're coming through quite noticeable. Now, I've got the de-crackle setting at this point in its center position, medium de-crackle. What happens in minutes 3 to 4, I've activated the intensity button, which effectively is kind of double de-crackle. So we've got the intensity on, and we've still got that control in its middle position. Now it actually looks like we're doing better here. We've got less crackles and pops. I think that's just coincidence, because when you look at minutes 4 to 5, what's happened here is I turn everything up to maximum. So I've got intensity on, but I also turn the de-crackle dial all the way to the right, and of course VNRS is still switched on, and we're getting plenty of crackles here. So that minute there was just kind of a quiet part of the record, I think, because these are pretty loud crackles that are really popping up there, and they'll be very noticeable and annoying. You can see the crackle side of this, it's not able to get rid of those loud sounds, but the VNRS, the rumble filter, that has made quite a significant difference. Now, if you're interested, I'll just quickly play you 10 seconds from that first minute and then 10 seconds from the final minute. Bear in mind the gain here has been turned way up so that you can hear all the crackles and surface noise. Here we go. Now, I was struggling to think of any other noisy, crackly records I've got that I could demonstrate this thing with, and then I remembered 78s. I'd previously done a video where I featured some 78 RPM records, and they were pretty noisy. It's not necessarily down to people not looking after them or not cleaning them. The fact is, the abrasives that were used in the manufacture of these are now, after all these years, breaking down, causing micro cracks and fissures, imperfections that then come across as crackles and pops. One positive thing with these, though, is that in a previous video where I played this particular record, I could play all the way through without it hitting a content match, so it's a good thing to demonstrate this with. Now, you might not think this device would be suited for 78s, but you've got to bear in mind it's just got a line in on there. It's agnostic. Whatever you put into it, it's going to try doing its processing on it, whether it's getting rid of crackles and pops or surface noise. So let's see how it gets on. Okay, well, I think if that proves anything, it's that this device can't work miracles. I'd clearly taken it to its limits and a little bit beyond. Even with everything activated and maxed out, I barely noticed any improvement at all to the playback of that record. One thing I did notice, though, you might have spotted this too if you've got headphones on, it's that when I activated VNRS, the bass reduced. There was somebody playing a double bass, I think, and they almost seemed to disappear when VNRS was activated. So it's something that you might have to compensate for with your amplifier, increase the amount of bass if you were using this device with the VNRS activated. It's really a tale of two halves, though. As far as the de-crackle side of things goes, that's a very hard thing to do. Real-time crackle and pop removal, and it's proven by this where it doesn't really do very much of a good job at all as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I suppose if you had some records that had a very low level crackle, you could maybe tune that down a little bit, but I never find that particularly annoying. It's those loud clicks and pops that get on my nerves, and those were still coming through anyway, even with everything turned up to full. So that side of things, not really interested in. As far as the noise reduction side of things goes, the rumble filter, I think that did a good job. Of course, that's an easier thing to do in real time because you're just dealing with cutting out a low level consistent noise. And whilst that isn't something I think I particularly need in my hi-fi, I don't have a problem with that. in the past with different record players, different equipment, I have noticed that being an issue. Of course, you've got that little stylus vibrating around and it picks up everything. So any kind of vibrations from a motor, bearings, whatever, it's going to travel through. But if you've got a nice record player that you already like, a direct drive one, for example, and you like everything about it, but it does have that kind of low-level rumble that you really can't do much about, well, something like this might cut it out entirely. So it's certainly worth thinking about for people in that situation. But anyway, there you go. That was my look at the Pro-ject Vinyl NRS Box S3. I hope you've enjoyed having a look at it here with me today, but that's it for the moment. As always, thanks for watching.